can all hear, right?
What?
Huh? What?
Huh?
What? By the way, we're on YouTube now.
What?
Huh? Okay.
Hi, YouTube.
Hi, YouTube. I made some major changes. I'm hoping our equipment's working right. We're going to find out the hard way. So, hopefully y'all got sound out there.
What's the quote? F it, we'll do it live.
Right, pretty much. That's a good mic check. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we ready?
Ready.
Okay, here we go.
Steady.
Hey folks, welcome to this episode of the GalaxyCast, the first GalaxyCast of 2019. I am your host, Bob Christman. I have with me Eric the Artist.
Well, golly, it's good to be back.
Let me try that part again. I have with me how many people in the studio?
3.
I have with me Eric the Artist.
Well, golly, it's good to be back.
I have with me Gary the Stud.
Well, shazam.
And I am crazy. So, we have a lot of things we want to talk about with you tonight. We have 4 main topics. Our first topic is going to be why Star Trek IV has been shelved and canceled. We're going to talk about the fact that Disney's ordered up a second season of Star Wars Resistance.
Why?
We're going to confirm that IG-88 is in Star Wars The Mandalorian. And then very quickly, we're going to review, I shouldn't say very quickly because we know that's a lie. We're going to review the Star Wars fan film Vader Episode I, Shards of the Past, a Star Wars Theory fan film that we watched tonight, which was epic. Okay, so our first topic tonight is a Star Trek topic. That's right, not Star Wars. Remember when I said we were a Star Wars and more show? That's right. We can do more than just Star Wars. It's all cool.
Tonight, we're going to talk about Star Trek.
We're going to talk about why Star Trek IV has been canceled. Now, is it canceled or shelved? That's the really weird thing. Like, every website I read about this at, it was like a different response to it.
Well, in this business, when something is shelved of this magnitude...
You think it's canceled, pretty much?
It could get resurrected, but as we go into the details, I'll kind of describe why it might not.
Right. I agree with Eric. At least the way they're describing this, I believe shelved is going to mean canceled. I don't think there's coming back.
At least not
from what the discussion is right now.
Yeah, and probably not in the form we know.
Right. So the main reasons they talk about, first off, the first one, we're on Screen Rant, by the way, talking about this, is that Star Trek Beyond underperformed. There's no doubt that Star Trek Beyond underperformed.
It did.
My question to you guys, why do you think Beyond underperformed? I mean, I know you've all watched it. I've watched it. What do you think about Star Trek Beyond caused it to underperform?
To me, there was no... I know they tried to shrink it. They wanted it to be more intimate. They wanted it to be more character-driven, but we had another crashing of the Enterprise, which was not an original idea,
right,
to start off to get us into the flow of the movie.
Right.
And then nothing to me super amazing happened in it that was like, wow, this is the epicness. I mean, when you go to the Star Trek movies, they need to be universe-shattering levels of plot in terms of how interesting they are to keep you going. I mean, the first one, an entire universe was rebooted.
Was created, yeah.
Was recreated and rebooted. The second one, people didn't like it. I actually kind of liked it. But you reintroduced Khan, and you had this big reintroduction,
really?
And
okay, so
I did like it.
I'm just curious, because, like, okay, so now my sarcastic mind's at play here. You didn't like The Force Awakens because it was a complete reboot and a rehash of Star Wars A New Hope. But you were okay with Star Trek doing the exact same Wrath of Khan with different people.
Because Star Wars, The Force Awakens, was not an alternate universe take on this storyline. It was a continuation, but just rehashed ideas. This is saying, hey, here's an alternate universe. We're showing you an alternate way that these characters still meet up, that the idea that fate through every universe still brings the same people together in some ways, even under different conditions, to me worked. And Star Trek has always been more about alternate realities, time travel, all those scientific, heady ideas, where Star Wars has always been a space opera-driven storyline that moved straight along and showed the evolution of characters.
So my question is, if Star Wars had done that, would you have been better with The Force Awakens? Like, if they had done...
If it was an alternate universe take, it wasn't a sequel. I probably would have been interested to see what they did with it. But then, like you said, to me, it was not... To me, it was lazy.
Okay.
It was just... This was a point of saying, hey, we're retelling Khan.
Right.
But differently. That was the point of it. Force Awakens was supposed to be, hey, we're finally getting this sequel to find out what happened 30 years later, and we find out that 30 years later everything happens again.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was my problem. It was not an intentional alternate reality take. That's to me that's the difference. And yeah, I understand what people, but I knew going into it we were probably getting a Star Trek II Wrath of Khan retell. I knew, even though they said no, there's no Khan and this and that. I'm like, they're doing Khan. Of course they are. That's sure enough what they did. I liked the action in it. I didn't mind the story, and I liked Benedict Cumberbatch as the character. I thought the whole thing was done pretty interestingly. I've seen it again recently on TV, and I found I still enjoyed it as much as I thought I did. But then you get to 3, Beyond. There's no amazing new interesting race that we're introduced to. I mean, this was not a reboot. This was not the search for Spock over again. This was a new story. So like, okay, we're giving you a new story now.
The girl who's on the planet, what race was she?
I don't remember the name. I don't remember the...
But we got introduced to them,
We
right?
did. Okay, but so again, they're not memorable to me. It wasn't. Okay. It wasn't this, and there was nothing about them that made me go, "Wow, that's a cool alien race that's got this neat, unique style," or you know, they've got this culture that does this amazing, cool thing, and that's part of the story. And to me, there was nothing super interesting about it, and it was just kind of a blah movie. The characters did great. They all played their roles well. I remember that I laughed a bunch because there was good humor in it and stuff like that. But I came out of it going, I'm kind of hard-pressed to remember what did the villain want? What was the point? Do you remember?
The villain was trying to... Well, he was enslaving everybody onto that planet so that he could entrap them and enslave them to do what he wanted them to do.
You wanted to get off the planet, and the only way you could do it is to get all the technology he could to rebuild his ship to get off.
Right.
So then, but he also had that super powerful flight of drone things that were able to get off the planet anyway, right at the beginning before the Enterprise even came down, because they destroyed the Enterprise.
Right.
So couldn't he already get off the planet?
Not himself, no.
Right. He can only do it through the tech.
The drones could go off.
Right. But he couldn't.
Right.
So that's, I mean... To me, that's just this kind of wishy-washy. I want a universe-threatening whatever.
And the problem I had with that part was he was part of Starfleet before Starfleet even became Starfleet.
Right.
Right. I'm kind of remembering those things now.
But back in Enterprise's day.
Right.
And he had a chamber or something where he kept taking the life force from someone else to stay alive.
Right. So it didn't seem to me to have the big ideas it needed to be its own thing. That was the problem. I think it fell into a wishy-washy area.
Gary, why do you think Beyond fell short?
Because a lot of the same problem with The Last Jedi when it came out, and then Solo came out, and no one went and seen Solo because they were pissed off at the movie before it.
That's kind of what I thought too. You know,
right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The Wrath of Khan remake, reboot, whatever you want to call it. I understand Eric's points that he says about it. I can look at it that way and say, okay. But at the same time, it was still the Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
And you got a whole new reboot of the whole thing. It's like, why do you have to go back to the old stories and redo it?
And I will agree that even though I said I liked the movie, I do wish they had told a unique story. I wish they instead had said, hey, we have this new universe. Let's go explore tons of new stories. We came up with tons of new stories with Next Generation that were interesting, and we came up with tons of new stories for all these shows. You think we can come up with a movie? No, they retold a story, and I do agree with that.
Right, and they could have used Khan and his eugenics experimental people that he's got to, you know, and the Federation could work together instead of being against one another.
I mean, yeah, how cool would that have been if it was a Khan-Kirk team-up? And Khan wasn't a bad guy.
Right. That's what I was kind of like, some sort of change up in the storyline.
You know, have the guy that had the dreadnought be the bad guy, and working with the Klingons or something.
I was kind of hoping the girl would end up becoming the bad guy, like she was secretly the white girl that.
Oh, we're not talking about Beyond. I'm talking about.
Oh, you're talking about Khan. Okay, sorry.
Into Darkness.
Into Darkness.
So, my issue with Into Dark or Beyond was that it felt like a Star Trek: The Next Generation episode. The whole movie did.
Yeah.
Which, if you liked The Next Generation, played to you. Like the fans I know that were like me and liked Star Trek: The Next Generation loved that movie. They liked it because it very much felt like an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. If that wasn't your like you grew up with the original Trek, or you liked Enterprise better, or you liked Discovery better, or you liked any other show, Deep Space Nine, whatever, then that wasn't your cup of tea, because it was very much directed to feel like a Next Generation episode. Well, and if you go back to it thinking that way, then it kind of comes across.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you on that one, Bob.
Okay.
I liked Enterprise.
You mean Next Generation?
No, Enterprise.
You liked Enterprise. No, I know.
Yeah, with Captain Archer and all that.
Yeah. Well, you and I are an anomaly. I liked Enterprise. I liked Next Generation. And a lot of times in the Star Trek world, it's one or the other. You know what I mean? In a Star Trek world, it's really weird. It's almost like most people are either on one boat or the other boat, but they rarely fall in between.
I like Next Generation, but I didn't love it.
Really? Okay.
All right.
See, I watched.
I love Next Generation.
I was watching Next Generation live when it was on.
Yeah, me too.
It was must-see TV.
Well,
every week.
It was.
I had to be there and catch it.
It was with me too, but it wasn't. The reruns come on right now. I don't watch the Next Generation.
Well, it's horribly dated.
That's absolutely.
You got to really enjoy the characters and the nostalgia.
Early 90s dated.
But then again, the original Star Trek series is horribly dated, so you got to enjoy the nostalgia.
Well, that's the thing. I watch the original series whenever it's on. I even go to Netflix and watch it occasionally, and I do the same thing with Enterprise. I can watch the whole episode, the whole season of.
I'll give you
the whole series of Enterprise and watch it again. It never gets old for me.
See, I've never seen Enterprise all the way through.
How about Voyager? What did you guys all think of Voyager?
I didn't care for it.
It didn't hold me. I think I watched it pretty strongly for the first season, and then after that, I just kind of.
That's the really weird thing. I've yet to find anybody that's like, I loved Voyager. Like, I have no fans that I know of.
Which is what's weird is because
into that show.
The storyline of it is the most kind of true to the original idea of the continuing mission of the being everywhere in strange new worlds.
Right.
They were trapped. I think what hurt the series was. There was no other Federation intrigue. There was no other connection. You felt isolated.
Right.
So after you're watching it for a while, like, this is neat. It's like the original Star Trek, and then you're like, oh, I'm never going to see anything about the rest of the Federation, and it's like,
that's really
it's
weird
just
because
this.
That's what I fell short on the first two seasons of Deep Space Nine, was there wasn't enough of a connection to
right.
Starfleet in any way, shape, or form. And I get that it was supposed to be a distant station, but I mean, there needed to be some connection, and there wasn't. By season 3, when they finally started, like, hey, the Enterprise showed up, and a couple other ships that we knew show up, the Defiant gets built and used, then all of a sudden I was like, all right, now this show is cool. And that's the weird thing. I really do think that's the problem with Star Trek, is when you get into it, it almost has to have that connection to Starfleet in some way, or you're just not into it.
Well, there was like 1 or 2 seasons in the middle of Deep Space Nine, like when they really kicked in with the Jem'Hadar.
Yeah.
That I felt it was the best Star Trek I'd seen on TV. Mm-hmm. Anything over Enterprise, anything over Next Generation.
The last 3 seasons of Deep Space Nine.
There was there was a segment of Deep Space Nine that to me became the absolute best of Star Trek. It was just unbelievable storytelling. I had to watch it. I remember at the time I was working second shift.
Yeah.
So I could only catch it as like a repeat play after midnight on Sundays when they do that second showing they did.
Uh-huh.
But I had no way of taping it, no DVRs back then, nothing like that.
Didn't exist.
I came home and I watched that sucker religiously. That was like my time, and I loved that show. I just thought at that point it was great storytelling.
So the interesting thing is, we all kind of agree that Beyond did fall short. You know, even though we're all over the map about why it did fall short.
But I like the Beyond.
I didn't hate it
because of the connection to Enterprise.
I agree with you there. I didn't hate it. There were a lot of little taglines and stuff in there that reminded me of Enterprise, and I liked that. Now, what about the fact that Star Trek 4's director moved on? Do you think that was an awful thing? Like, could they have done the next...
Well, directors are interchangeable. I mean, until the movie comes out, people almost don't care who the director is, unless it's such a huge name that's like a Spielberg or a Draw or a, whatever. It's like, oh, hey, Cameron's doing this. Or there are people who are fans of the director, and it'll certainly appeal to their fan base, but it doesn't make or break, to me, the movie. If another director came along, oh well, look at Solo being changed over to Ron Howard, and I think Ron Howard did a pretty darn good job. And
I do too.
But so I don't think the loss was huge in the terms of the fan opinion, but it probably was huge in terms of the timeline, because it's kind of hard to bring somebody else in like that and keep this momentum going. Because if a drop off happens like that and people question why. Sometimes if there's not enough stake behind it to get the thing made, like Solo, they were in the middle of making it. They had to finish it. So they weren't going to just stop. This wasn't being made yet. And if you lose a director, I think a momentum can get lost behind the scenes where some people kind of question, how hard do we want to push on this thing right now? We haven't done, all the money's not spent yet. Do we want to spend it? And I think that slows them down.
So let me ask you this question. Do you think, had it not been for Star Trek, would J.J. Abrams have been tapped on to do Star Wars?
I think so.
I still think he would have.
You still think he would have been tapped on to do Star Wars?
I do.
Okay.
I mean, he made it clear that even when he did the reboot of Star Trek, that he's more of a Star Wars guy. He said that in interviews, which was like, oh, geez, you're directing Star Trek. Don't say that.
Don't say.
And he did take Steven Spielberg's 8mm films and made it 8mm.
True.
Right.
And Spielberg is best friends with George Lucas. So
yeah.
I guess that's true.
Abrams was already a big name.
Yeah.
And I think he could have easily been still tapped to do.
I was just curious if you guys thought that maybe that had an influence or not. I never thought it did, but I was just curious what your thoughts were. I don't know if the director would have had made a big impact for me, and that's the weird thing. I think Disney thinks at times. I think some of these companies, Disney's, Paramount, all these people think we put a lot of weight on the director. I as long as there's good storytelling, my weight on the director is kind of lighthearted, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Well,
as long as there's a good story, I think the director has something to work with.
Well, if you have you could have the best story out there, but the director trashes it.
I guess that's true, but I also think it's the other way around. If you have a director doing an amazing direction job and they've got an awful story behind it, that also doesn't help. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
both
but
they have to work in tangent with each other. I think.
But I think just this the one director just looks at it and I don't like this idea, so we'll do it this way.
I get it,
and then it ruins.
And truly, even horrible movies with bad editing and only so-so directors can be saved in the editing.
Right.
They always say sometimes a movie is made or broken in the editing booth.
So what do you guys think of the idea that one of the things that was the nail in the coffin is that Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth both backed out?
That's the big one.
See, to me, that's the one. It was.
I feel like these others are kind of fillers around that.
It was kind of like nail in the coffin moment. It was like, yep, there it is. Right.
What I heard is it was contract negotiations. It was amounts of money.
Right.
Chris Pine has gotten to be much bigger than he was when he first was hired. I don't remember hearing much about him when he first became Kirk. I mean, I think I knew of him somewhat, but now he's a big
kind
name.
of a know-nothing actor. To be honest.
Now he's a big name. He's in tons of stuff. He's got tons of other gigs.
I was gonna say he's got so many gigs between Wonder Woman and all these other things he's involved in. I mean, he's in a couple TV shows that I know of, too.
He's in a few. That one...
the one's going to come out...
The Night Comes For Us, or whatever it
is. Yeah, about the Black Dahlia.
Yeah, that's going to be a big deal.
I honestly think
he played the King of Scotland in that movie that's out in Netflix, I think it's on.
I actually think that it wasn't the fact that he wanted more money. I think he's doing Wonder Woman. And then this other project came up for TNT, and he wanted to do that and not do Star Trek yet. That's what I'm thinking more so than anything else.
I also wonder if part of his motivation is he got stuck as Captain Kirk, right? And I think, and this is an actor's worry always, right?
Yeah, typecast.
You get typecasted, right? And look at Shatner, and with some love, Shatner was lucky. He was able to get into some other projects, like he got into T.J. Hooker But he
Rescue 911.
Yeah, Rescue 911. But he never really had anything.
Rescue 911.
Never anything huge after Star Trek. Think about it. I mean, like, ultimately.
Well, he's known for.
They were kind of smaller roles, right? I mean, he's known as. And then you look at other actors. There's very few Star Trek actors that had breakout moments. Jean-Luc Picard, I'll give you.
Patrick Stewart
but Patrick Stewart had a massive career before, which I think really set him up for the massive career after.
Yeah.
The problem was most of the people who broke into Star Trek,
Jonathan
Frakes is always the first one I would think of, never really get much beyond that.
Well, not acting-wise. He went on to direct a lot of stuff.
He did direct, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, as far as acting is concerned.
Like Brent Spiner.
Right. I mean, like,
he's
what
typecast as Data for his life. I mean, even though he's been in a number of movies. I mean, he was in... but he's always kind of played the scientist role.
Right.
That whole smart guy role is what he's kind of typecast as. He was that in that John Travolta movie where he could move object with his mind. What was it called? Phenomenon.
Yeah.
He was at...
Yeah.
He was in Phenomenon. He was in
Independence Day.
Independence Day as the mad scientist again. He kind of had those roles over and over again. So he's been in some things, but he's never had a big role where he's a star.
I'll agree with you. And to me, these are all examples of how it could be career killing to have these things going on.
And that's the same with Star Wars. Is people are afraid of. It's like, I want to be cast in Star Wars, but I don't want to be typecast in Star Wars.
Right.
So it's always one of those things they're terrified of. That's it.
Right. That's it. That ends your career.
Else.
It's kind of like Avengers too. I think that's a worry of the Avengers cast.
Well, I think most of that. Here's the thing, though. Most of the Avengers cast are established actors.
Oh, they are.
I mean, the only one who wasn't huge, but he'd still done a ton, was Chris Hemsworth. I mean, Mark Ruffalo had been acting forever.
Yeah, that's true.
Robert Downey Jr., we thought his career was over.
Oh, he was at the end of his...
Chris Evans has done tons, and he's going to continue to do tons.
I think actually Captain America helped him more than anything.
It did.
Yeah.
I'm sure it did. Scarlett Johansson, she has all the acting roles she could want, and she's going to keep getting them.
Do you think she would be as big as she is right now? Though,
she was huge before she got cast.
She was big. I mean, I just don't know if she was like blow up big. You know what I mean? But now I kind of feel like anything she's in, people are going to flock to.
I mean, all their careers have grown, but you got to remember, they've been in these roles for 8 to 10 years,
Right,
and they've done other things beside, as other movies along with these. So they've kind of grown, not just because of Avengers.
Right.
Like I said, the only one I think that was really, really kind of not known was Chris Hemsworth coming in.
True.
He had done, a bunch of things, but he wasn't a big name. But he's doing enough showing his comedic side that he is going to be fine. He is not going to be typecast as Thor. He is going to have a career, no problem.
Not that he's just Chris Hemsworth. Take his shirt off and he wins.
Well, people just love him. He's funny though. The guy's a funny guy.
No, he's funny too. I know. I'm just saying.
He's just a hot guy. That's all.
That's what I'm saying. He's the hot guy in the corner. Take his shirt off, you win.
So I do think that the two of them not being in it, Hemsworth they could have lived without, because could they retool the story maybe or get replace him as an actor to be his dad and get someone else? Sure, but losing Pine
would have been huge. I mean, that's losing your captain. That's equivalent to not having William Shatner. That's equivalent to not having Jean-Luc Picard. I mean, there's no way you could pull any Star
especially because
off without the captain.
The entire plot of the story was centered around Kirk meeting his dad. That was the script that had been written.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to say, ooh, we lose both the leads.
Right.
So that's why I think that's the main reason why I think it got shelved.
Now, what do you guys think about this idea that Tarantino may be working on a script for Star Trek?
I've been hearing about this for about a year and a half now, and I would love to see it. He's apparently a huge fan. He wants to do something a little different in the universe, not play with the major characters as far as I know. I'm all for seeing another movie in that universe told by a different point of view.
I have mixed feelings about Tarantino. There's some Tarantino films I love, and then to be honest with you, there are a lot of Tarantino films I hate.
Oh, there's some, yeah.
There are a lot.
Which are the ones? Okay, it's always interesting. Which are the ones you hate?
The ones I hate?
Like what haven't you enjoyed?
The one he wrote where they were all out in a cabin in the middle of nowhere. The Hateful Eight. Did not like that.
Okay.
Watched it.
I'll be honest. I have not seen it yet.
Watched it several times to see if I missed something. Was there something? No. It's just a gore fest.
Okay.
How could you blow people up in different ways and still get away with it? Right.
Well, I haven't seen it yet, so don't tell me too much.
That's Tarantino anyway. So.
Well, I know, and I guess that's my issue. You know what I mean? That's part of my problem. So I wasn't a huge fan of that. I was not a huge fan of Django Unchained. I watched that. I watched that several times trying to figure out what it was that people saw in that movie. Still don't get it.
I got a kick out of that one.
I just wasn't a fan. Kill Bill, liked the first one, hated the second one.
Oh, see, I was the opposite. I thought the first one was a little too slow, and I thought it really found itself in the second one.
See, I liked the story in the first one. I mean, I'll give it with the action, as far as the action is concerned, I will give you that. But I thought the story in the first one was much better told than in the second one. And then, I loved the whole, to me, if you want to talk about Tarantino at his best, the Desperado series, I think.
He didn't do Desperado.
I thought he directed those.
That's Robert Rodriguez.
Oh, damn. Okay. So then I don't like anything Tarantino, quite honestly. No, then
You don't like the original stuff like Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction? Nope. Oh my God, I think those are some of the best movies.
No, I don't get Pulp Fiction. Everybody who's enthralled with that movie, I don't get it. I've watched it several times.
I don't think I can be on this podcast.
To this day, I don't understand why people were enthralled with Pulp Fiction. I don't know. Maybe I'm just missing something. I don't get it.
From Dusk to Dawn.
Well, he wrote that, but he didn't direct it.
He didn't direct that, right? So
he was in it.
He was in it, and he wrote it. And I hated it.
It's his movie.
The first time I saw it, I didn't enjoy it. Now I kind of get it more. I went in expecting a Tarantino movie that was smarter, and no, he was totally trying to write a B movie.
I liked From Dusk Till Dawn. I was okay with that one. But I thought he was in Desperado, right? Wasn't he in it?
No.
I'm pretty sure he was. I'm going to have to go back and
no,
look
that was because it starred, what's his name there? Antonio Banderas.
It did, but I'm saying I think he was in the actual film, though. Or involved in some major way.
He might have been a producer of the remake because he liked Rodriguez and wanted it to happen. Because Rodriguez made the first one as a very, very low budget movie. It was like $7,000.
Yeah, and it's not the greatest quality.
Right. That was, and then he made the remake, which was kind of a sequel, kind of a remake, and
Right.
that I think
he was.
I think
He
was
was
produced.
He was the pickup guy.
He was a pickup guy.
Oh,
He was
that's
in it.
right. He was in it briefly.
Yeah.
Briefly.
He's his friend. He's one of the friends of the guy with the machine gun case.
I think.
Yeah.
It
so he's the
wasn't
one-
a huge role.
He's the one with the rocket, I think, if I remember correctly. The rocket case.
No, that's those. His buddies that show up are both Mexican.
Okay. But he's in it. I remember that much. And I was pretty sure that he played a major role in at least getting it out there.
He's not even listed as a producer, though.
Not even listed as producer, I guess. Wow. I always thought Tarantino was heavily involved in that. So, yeah, I got a problem with Tarantino, I guess.
I like Pulp Fiction.
Did you like Reservoir Dogs? See, when that movie came out and I saw it for the first time, I'm like, wow, this is impressive. Just his, because that was one of the first ones where we ever saw the mixed up timeline and the reveal of things first thing
Like
in the movie
backwards,
that then
yeah.
you find out later what's going on, and the music his musical choices were great. I've always thought his soundtracks are amazing.
I haven't seen it all the way through yet.
Really? That's the movie where you gotta just sit and see it. I think it's so good.
The Kill Bill series, I like both parts. Planet Terror,
Well, that was Rodriguez, Planet Terror.
he still wrote it.
He did the other half.
Yeah,
He
the
did
other half, yeah.
the
When I say Planet Terror,
yeah.
Right.
What the heck was the name of it? It was Planet Terror, and
Hang on.
because I liked it. It's very wordy, but I grew to like it because it feels so much like a road grindhouse movie.
yeah,
It's
the
very true.
grindhouse, the whole grindhouse thing. I liked it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think what the heck, why this is bugging me. So we're gonna have to edit this out because I know this movie, and this is just like a brain spasm.
You're talking about this one here?
Yeah, Planet Terror was one half, so it's the other half.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Oh, there it is. Death
Death
Proof.
Proof.
Death
Yeah,
Proof.
Death
I kept
Proof,
wanting to say Drive Proof. Death Proof.
Yeah.
I like Death Proof. It's very wordy, but it worked for me for what it was.
And if you watch it, they both coincide with each other too.
Right. They do cross over a bit.
Yes. So
I guess that's just my problem. Is that so far, there's here's my issue. Like some of them, like Reservoir Dogs, I'm okay with Reservoir Dogs. I got the movie, understood it, it made sense to me, but it didn't have one of those like. It didn't stay in my head. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's not one of those films that stuck with me. I was like, man, I will totally remember that movie forever. I don't know. When I look at what he's done, there's nothing that kind of sticks in my head and go, yeah, I remember that. Totally remember
Inglorious
that movie.
Bastards I like too.
Oh, that was yeah.
See, now
I really like that
I'm actually
movie.
okay with that one. With all of the ones that I've seen on this list here that we're looking at, we're on IMDb. That's probably the one that I'm actually okay with.
Right.
Natural Born Killers. I didn't mind that movie.
Yeah. The thing is, he hated it. He
Really?
wrote
He
it,
did?
and then he didn't like
Figures
how
the
it was
one
directed.
The one thing I like.
Because the director was someone, with another person.
somebody else,
and
right?
I can't, but someone famous. Was it Scorsese? No, it wasn't Scorsese. It was De Palma, I think. I think it was Brian De Palma. No, I don't know who it was.
Well, here, let me click on it. We'll find it.
Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone.
I knew it was one of those big ones. And it was, he didn't like the way Oliver Stone decided to just completely take the story, which was one thing, and tell it really weird and different. He didn't like that.
You see, I've never seen Jackie Brown. Everybody keeps saying I should watch that.
That one's okay. It feels kind of like Pulp Fiction light.
Okay.
It just doesn't feel as involved or as
Right.
engrossing, and it's kind of similar.
It reminded me of an old Shaft episode.
Yeah, I think that's what he was going for.
So maybe that's my problem. But anyway.
Right, so we've gone off on a big
I'm
Tarantino
not a
tangent.
huge Tarantino fan, so the idea of him having Star Trek worries me a little bit. My only concern with him getting a Star Trek show or movie, would he use the gore? You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's Tarantino, right? Like the out over the top, way over the edge gore. I've yet to see a film he doesn't use it in. And does Star Trek really? You know what I mean? Like, is that really the proper place to put that in? I don't think it is. It's not the place to do it. Fan or not, that's my concern. It would be kind of like handing over Star Trek to, I don't know, who's the guy who did Nightmare Before Christmas?
Tim Burton?
Tim Burton. You get what I'm saying? Like, all of a sudden it would become a dark Star Trek, and it would, I don't know, it would be a weird combination.
You can guarantee 2 actors that are going to be in it.
Well, yeah, you would definitely get
Johnny Depp
and what's the girl that's always with him?
Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah, Helena Bonham Carter.
Just like if it's Tarantino that does Star Trek, we'll probably get
Trejo.
Michael Madsen.
Yeah, Danny Trejo.
Danny
yeah, for
Trejo
sure.
might appear in it. What's her name there?
Salma Hayek?
No. Well, yeah, she could.
Probably. Antonio Banderas.
Again, that's
probably
those are more Robert Rodriguez, though.
Yeah, so...
they all work with each other.
I'm thinking Uma Thurman.
Yeah, Uma Thurman.
Because he puts her in a lot of stuff.
I could totally see Danny Trejo playing the role of Guinan. You know, like, hey, baby, come on and have a beer.
It's gonna be Travolta as the captain.
Yeah.
Actually, that would be funny. I think we should go left.
Sam Jackson and Spock.
Someone's been messing with my mother effing buttons.
Time to give you a motherfucking mind meld.
Someone get these MFing Klingons off my MFing starship.
All right, so what do you guys think? This is a good idea that Star Trek 4 got canceled or
It didn't sound like it was going anywhere.
I agree with you.
It just sounded like it was running a dead end, and they decided to shelve it.
I think they're better off at this point not doing anything than doing something and being regretful of it later.
Yeah.
Just ask Star Wars about that.
And I think after Pine does his... what am I looking for? His...
Vanity projects?
Vanity Project is human interest stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think he might regret it later?
He might come back to it.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. I mean, give it 3 or 4 years, and he could come around and be like, okay, I'm ready to do another big
Yeah, when something tanks big time on him.
Yeah, then he'll come back to Star Trek. I get it. All right, so our next story we wanted to talk about.
That segment's going to need to be heavily edited, because that's a half hour on Star Trek.
I'm not worried about it. Are you? I'm not worried. Okay, our next segment, we're going to talk about the fact that Disney has decided to reorder up Star Wars Resistance.
And there you go, that's
for
the
a
story.
second season. I just want to ask you guys a general question. Based on what we've seen up until now, remember, we're only about 6 or 7 episodes in for Star Wars Resistance. Is it worth a second season?
No.
Right now, no. But it must get really good in the second half if they've already decided to go with it.
But
we hope, right? I mean, like...
Or they've got pictures of Disney execs in compromising positions, and they're like, give us a second season.
Or they've got really good pictures of certain individuals in the Star Wars Resistance. No, sorry. That's also inappropriate. Gary, go ahead.
At first I say no, but then I'm looking at it like, well, I get a good half hour sleep. So it might be good.
So you're still going to continue yours based on pillows, how many pillows it's worth? Yeah. I mean, part of me sitting here saying this is a premature jump at a show that, quite honestly, I don't think... Have you noticed there's been no ratings talks about Star Wars Resistance?
I haven't heard a lot about it, and the people I know that are even huge Star Wars fans, we're talking...
like
Disney,
die-hard fans,
like go to the rides regulars
Right.
and attend celebrations, and every time someone says a negative thing about Last Jedi, they're all over them going, it's fantastic, Star Wars, this, that. They've been like, this Resistance isn't going anywhere, and I'm bored.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if they're saying that.
It's sad that even the kids are saying they kind of feel like Resistance isn't doing it for them. I'm like, wait a minute, that's who it's marketed to. So even if kids are like, it's not working out right, then something's not good.
Well, one of the things I can say is it goes to show them that you just can't do a Star Wars show with nothing to do with Star Wars.
Well, well, more importantly, Gary, I think it proves that you can't just slap the Star Wars name on something and assume it's automatically going to make money and be a fun thing. I think that's the role here. My fear is that Disney hasn't learned that yet, and so they're ordering up the second season without looking at numbers and are going, Oh, part of me sitting here saying they don't have to care either, though, because here's the deal. They're going to open their streaming app with all these amazing other things, and Resistance is just going to be a cherry on top of the pie, on top of the cake, on top of the gigantic cookie cake that they've got going on, right?
That's one hell of a dessert.
Right? Like, it's huge. But, I mean, like, quite honestly, they don't have to care about Resistance.
I mean, are they thinking, we just need more content?
Well, that's what I'm, yeah. I mean, right. I mean, like, listen, if you're going to open up your streaming service, which they're doing next year, they've got to do something that'll...
Or this year.
Bridge the gap.
It's
supposed to be end of 2019, early to 2020. But there's got to be something to bridge that gap, right? So why not have, like, the season finale of Season 2 Resistance on your streaming service?
Yeah, it's like, hey,
you got to go to our streaming service
to see how it ends.
The rest how it... Yeah, that's where
that'd be mean.
It'd be mean, but it would... Come on, how else are you going to get people to jump over to it? Yeah. And then imagine kids going to parents going, Mommy, need to see the end of Resistance. We need to get this app.
But from what we've seen, I don't think there's a lot of kids doing that.
Maybe not. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I just think it's early to jump on a Season 2 yet.
I mean, we haven't even gotten the second half of Season 1.
Right. Right, and that's what I'm saying.
But Disney execs have probably seen the entire second half of season 1.
True.
They know where it goes. They know how it ends. Maybe they know something we don't.
I hope, because if it keeps going the way it is, yawner. Okay, our next topic.
Half hour on Star Trek,
and
2 minutes on Resistance.
So our next topic, it was announced over the holiday break. That's right, we took some time off for the holidays, just like you do. We found out that IG-88 is definitely on for Star Wars The Mandalorian. It is confirmed that IG-88 will be in Star Wars Mandalorian. What do you guys think of this idea that it's IG-88? And actually, Jon Favreau put out a picture of IG-88 and what he's going to look like in the show. I'll try to bring that up on the screen for our YouTubers. What do you guys think of having IG-88 in the TV show?
Well, for one thing, in terms of pure live-action canon, we've not even seen this guy move.
Right.
We've just seen him standing there. So,
what we're going to see is that he's going to be a bartender.
You think that's what it is? I think it's actually going to be...
This is long after Star Wars ends. Right. We never caught Solo. We never know what he did.
Right.
So, the fact that this is not an IG model, it's IG-88. Right. They're saying specifically it's him.
Right.
And I had thought that Boba Fett destroyed him.
Where, though? And what was that in?
Yeah. It was in a book, right?
That was previously erased canon.
Legacy series that's been erased, yeah.
So, I think they could do some interesting stuff with him, but depends on... I mean, is he just going to be, we see him in one half of one episode, and he gets blown up, and there you go, IG-88
right,
was in it.
So here's a quote, Gary, to kind of end that one right there. It says, the old-time bounty hunter isn't just standing around either. We've had credible reports about blasters being fired, and he's riding speeder bikes and attacking enemies. Now, one of the things you mentioned about Jon Favreau is he made amazing things come to life, right?
Yeah,
like animals and all this crazy... Could you imagine if he took that technology and applied it to a droid? Like IG-88? I mean, like... That could be impressive. I mean,
I could see them doing the whole thing with a guy with the suit built to the front of him in green screen and a green suit, so he moves it.
Right.
And then they simply just, and
then they just use the background.
Yeah, and then obviously touch it up. But
right.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff coming in this Mandalorian that's going to be must-see TV for me.
No, I absolutely agree. And the more I'm seeing about it, the more I'm like, wow. Even Kathleen Kennedy had said, I couldn't be more excited about John coming on board. She's ready for the new platform. She says he brings the perfect mix of producing and writing talent. This is like to me already from what we're seeing, even just the little bits we're seeing in the set. So the look of the Mandalorian, I love. I like the look of the Mandalorian. IG-88, having him on the set, blasting, riding bikes, all that kind of. Yes. These are all things that like we've been screaming about for years as Star Wars fans, like we wanted to see. Part of me is like, okay, good. Now we got IG-88. Let's bring all the rest of them in. Bring Bosk in. Bring in Zuckuss, the guy with the bandages. Dengar. Why not bring all the bounty hunters in at some point here? Do you think all of this leads towards a Boba Fett type thing happening? I mean, IG-88 and Boba Fett, they're pretty much, like.
Right.
We kind of assume as Star Wars fans you see them together a lot, right? So the assumption is
I wonder if Boba Fett's alive. I still wonder if that's going to be a big reveal at the end of season 2 or something.
I was going to say at the end of one of these seasons, he trots up, and like maybe the Mandalorian gets all the Mandalorians back together, and then Boba shows up to take him over. Right?
You know how they end it? Someone finds his helmet, and they're like, "Well, that's no big deal," and they're like, "I didn't get it from the Sarlacc pit."
Oh yeah, there you go.
Found it somewhere else, and he's out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So there's all sorts of crazy, cool stuff that could totally happen. I would be excited about. What do you think, Gary? Good idea having IG-88 here? I mean, like...
Yeah, it's all right. Definitely gives a main connection to the old trilogy.
Yeah.
And that's what I was just going to say, is more so than just, oh, hey, we're getting IG-88 as a character.
Right.
It really shows the feel they're going for this series.
Yep.
It's not one of these, hey, we want to tell all sorts of new things that happen in the Star Wars universe. I get the feeling that Favreau's like, look, we can tell new stories, but people want to see the universe.
Characters they know.
Not even necessarily the characters, but the universe they're familiar with. We've really got to capture the feel that we're still in that universe and not off in some weird place doing things and just mentioning random Star Wars. They don't want Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
They don't want something that's like, you mention stuff that happens, but doesn't feel as connected. I think they really want something that feels like it's organically part of the Star Wars universe.
this is the first time I can honestly say I'm not worried about a Star Wars TV show because of who's producing and directing it, because I think he's moving it in the right direction. All right, the last thing I want to talk about is the fan film that we watched tonight. It was a pretty spectacular fan film. It's titled Vader Episode I, Shards of the Past, a Star Wars Theory fan film. You can go to YouTube and watch it. It's about a 20-minute, a little less than 20-minute fan film. It was, I mean, the best way I can describe it to anybody who has not watched it yet is it's impressive. Most impressive. I gotta say, the thing that surprised me about the whole film is the quality that we saw. I mean, Theed and Naboo looked like Naboo and Theed. The scenes in the Star Destroyer looked like a bay of a Star Destroyer. There wasn't any cheap background sets.
I do have to admit that the room they were in once we saw it in like the middle section, it was bland. But I mean, I was fine. The costuming was great. The voice acting was great. Yeah. The characters they got, and you even brought up, because Padme appears in this at one point.
She looks like Padme.
The part. I mean, she's not, obviously it's clearly not
Natalie Portman.
Thank you. Right. Natalie Portman. I'm not thinking of anything tonight. It's clearly not Natalie Portman, but boy, is there a resemblance in the look in that outfit of hers.
The only character that threw me off, the Anakin, was not quite anywhere near the young Anakin that they
he had almost like a Luke Skywalker haircut.
Mop top look. I was like, well, that one's a little off.
But I got what they were going for.
Yeah, the rest of it I was okay with, but that one was the one I was like, whoa.
Even the Emperor had a pretty good voice acting. I mean, he got a little off at points, but for the most part, what they did was they did enough accuracy in the costumes, the sounds, the characters, and the sets that you never consciously said to yourself, I'm pulled out of the Star Wars universe.
Right.
You were invested. So then all they had to do was tell an interesting story, and they did.
Well, and the fact that, and, you know, I don't want to blow the whole story, but the fact that the beginning is not what you think it is. So you see this beginning, and you're like watching this going, whoa, what is going on? And then you find out, nope, that's not what you thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, it gives them a chance to really play a little bit with the characters of Vader and the Emperor and all that. They can kind of do these things, you're like, wow, I always wanted to see that, and I wondered what it would have been like, and now you're seeing it. And then they gave themselves an out to not have to be stuck to that. But it ties in. But the thing is, it all fits with the idea of the rule of two and the way the Sith is structured in terms of their hierarchy, and it all works. It ties into Vader's backstory and his emotional feelings and how he feels, and it works. It all just works.
How about the idea that they mentioned the 501st in there? I mean, that's obviously going to be a thing in the next episode, it sounds like.
Either that or that was who we just heard get slaughtered.
Right, maybe. maybe
I think they could have been a little rag on the 501st.
Who do you think they were going after? Who he's going after?
That's what I.
Well, that's okay. So for those who have not watched it yet, those who have not watched it yet, skip ahead. I'd say 15-20 minutes in the episode here.
Yeah,
so
we're going to kind of go spoilers
here. So yeah, I was about to ask, who do you think the Jedi is that they're talking about that has an amethyst lightsaber left? Who could it be? Who do you think it is?
I know who you.
Gary, who do you think it is?
Mace Windu.
I was going to say one-arm Mace Windu. That's what he's going to say.
You think it's in one-arm Mace Windu? Is amethyst purple? I'm trying to remember.
If you looked into the hole,
there was a purple glow.
Purple blade.
Yeah, there was definitely a purple glow, and I'm kind of leaning towards he could be right. Because they are saying this is a theory film. So their theory is that Mace Windu survived the fall and ran off, and he's being hunted. He's trying to slaughter his way through the Empire in anger, and they send Vader after him.
That would be a major disturbance in the Force, too.
That's what they picked up.
And he's the only one that knows that Palpatine is from Naboo.
Oh, yeah.
So where would he go to go after?
Because who else would know it other than Yoda? But Yoda's in hiding, and Anakin, who's there.
Right.
I think he's
Windu,
right. I think we're getting a Windu in the next episode.
Yeah. I was trying to think of who I knew that had a purple lightsaber. I'm like,
he's the only one. He's the only one that was ever given a purple light.
Right.
The only one in canon is
canon.
In canon, right?
Yes.
And wasn't that because
he requested it?
Sam Jackson made it if I choose that color, that's the color.
Yeah.
And you want to know why he wanted that purple one?
No, why?
So that when the Jedi battles are going on, he knows where he was at.
Really?
Yeah. Stand out.
To stand out from all the blue and greens.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. But I mean, okay, so I agree with you. I mean, based on all those facts, it's got to be Mace Windu.
Probably with a robotic arm.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Do it Darth Maul style, which would be cool. It would be kind of an interesting take. But I was sitting here kind of racking my brain going, well, who could be left? Shaak Ti's dead. This one's dead. That one's dead. The other one that came to mind was Luminara Unduli's, Barriss Offee, is that the one?
Yeah.
that was Ahsoka's, underling.
And she was trained by Mace Windu too. So
right. So that's what I'm saying. Like it could be.
That
might be a nice little twist.
Anyway.
Right. That might be a little twist. That it's like her with a purple lightsaber because she redid it.
But
it could be.
But Mace Windu is the only one that knows that Vader is
Anakin. You're right.
And Palpatine Sidious is Palpatine.
Right. That's true. So that is kind of a
well, no, I mean it's pretty obvious that Sidious is Palpatine to the general because he announced it. He basically stepped out in front of the whole Senate. I've been transformed. I'm damaged. I'm taking over.
Yeah, but he
never revealed himself as a Sith,
Darth Sidious, though.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. He right.
He never actually came out and said, "I am Darth Sidious."
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. Sorry, right. I'm thinking more just his look, but you're right. Darth Sidious hides in the background, and
Right. Exactly. He's pulling the strings in the background. So it's I get what you're saying. It almost has to be. What did you guys think of the costumes in this movie?
Great.
I think that was the most impressive part of it. As a costumer, I'm looking at the whole thing going, there's not a single costume on there I could totally rip on and be like, nope, that is no way.
None of it pulled me
They were
off.
all, obviously they were 501st members.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously they got the 501st.
There has to be 501st members. The Darth Vader is actually very accurate. I'm impressed with whoever did that.
He's not the Episode 3
I was about to say, he's not
Vader.
the Revenge of the Sith version. He's the Empire Strikes Back one, right?
No. He's the Rogue One version.
Is he the Rogue One version?
It looks more like a Rogue One than it does.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at the details a little bit more.
Because the eyes are kind of like sunk back
Sunk in.
further.
Yeah. Which, I don't know if that's bad, though, because technically...
He would be.
It would fit in the timeline, right? Like, that would totally fit.
They did a good job on that, in my opinion.
Even the Emperor, I thought, was pretty good. I've seen some bad Emperors in my day. And this one was actually fairly well put together. I was impressed with the concept.
The only thing that pulled me out a little bit was not the shots, like when he flew the... first of all, I found it was interesting that he didn't take a TIE fighter. He flew a Jedi starfighter.
Yep.
Well, Vader's ship, Vader had a Jedi starfighter modified for him. Specifically, I actually have a miniature of it. And it's the one with the ring and everything. It's
black.
It's black, and it looks like the Jedi fighter.
And that footage of him going to Naboo, showing up outside Naboo, landing, all that was good. The shots outside the Star Destroyer were the only thing that pulled me out a tiny bit, special effects wise. Things moved a little too fast. It didn't have quite that level of polish that a typical... I'm talking purely from a special effects standpoint.
Right.
Those exterior shots in the movies are so well done that if they don't nail that, you do lose a little bit there. But, I mean, this is a nitpick. You see the outside for all of...
Like 3 seconds of the whole film.
10 seconds. It's not much.
My only nitpick of the whole film is occasionally, and I don't know how it happened, the Emperor started to sound like Yoda.
Oh, yeah, his voice, he drifted out of Emperor a little bit.
He'd forget to have the glottal front side of it, and he'd drop into the back of his throat, which... that's how you do Yoda, is in the back of your throat. And then so, there's not much difference from the front to the back. So it's like he would occasionally drop to the back of the throat.
I think it was in his longer sentences as he was running out of air.
Yeah, as he was trying to get it out before he got to the end of the sentence. And that was the only thing that kind of threw me off. But, I mean, other than that, it's an amazing film. And if you had not told me if George Lucas had not directed, I would never have known. I mean, quite honestly, there's a lot in this that I'm like, wow. Even the Theed Palace itself, I want to know where they went.
There was a shot that was of a pan down the palace. I'm guaranteeing it was post-production special effect. It wasn't a real place.
You think it was actually... Because I think they went to a place. I really do.
I don't know, because I think... those guys, I think, were all matted in to the shot.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so, but...
There's pretty good matting going on.
That's why I think it was good matting.
Wow.
But yeah, I think that was a good shot, that whole opening in the Theed Palace where it panned down. You saw the interior. I was impressed. They did not skimp by any means.
No, not at all. So I'm curious about episode 2 now. I want to see it. I can't wait till it comes out, and I don't know. Maybe I'll try to get a hold of the people that run this.
Now,
we can find some info from them.
We noticed something interesting about this, though.
Yes. Go ahead, Eric. You were the one that noticed it because I didn't.
They don't list a director.
There's no director.
Most fan films,
producers and writers.
There's producers, writers, and they kind of say that it was done by the Star. If you scroll down here, we're on YouTube looking at the credits.
Yeah, hang on.
They kind of start saying it was written by
Danny Ramirez gets all this credit for doing all this work.
Written by Danny Ramirez, but if you scroll down, then it says Star Wars Theory. It's kind of just they're crediting the group itself in a way. You know what I mean? Star Wars Theory.
Oh, wait, here it says VaderFanFilm@gmail.com, director Danny Ramirez.
Okay, so they only kind of tuck in that he's the director in this one small spot. He's not he doesn't have a big line item
Right.
in the
Right.
movie.
It's not. It's not in the credits.
And I feel like that's because this was a more group project. I almost feel like they decided to approach this as a collective.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why I think it turned out so good, because you didn't have a single director going, I want to tell my own unique story in the Star Wars universe that shows that they like to collect trophies and put them in castles on a field,
Right.
whatever they wanted to tell, this unique thing that has nothing to do with Star Wars. These people were like, nope, we like Star Wars, we're going to do this as a collective, we're going to be true to the story, and we're going to tuck it in right here and tell a little small story that happened after, Revenge of the Sith, but before Star Wars, and that's our time period. And it even says, it gives an exact date, it's 8 months after Anakin becomes Vader.
Right.
So they chose this little spot, they're telling a story, and
I think somebody
it's great.
seriously thought it through, too.
Yeah.
Like, they thought it through pretty well.
I just wonder how long we're going to have to wait until episode 2 comes out.
Especially with fan film, because you never know.
This first fan film only got released back on December 21st, just a couple days before Christmas.
Of
This is not,
2018,
this is not an old film. It's only like 2-3 weeks old.
Yep. So, Gary, was there anything in this one that kind of pulled you out or, like, threw you off a little, or no?
Just the planet, or not the planet, the galaxy look at the planet Naboo and the moons and stuff. That looked like it was a drawing more so than it was any real planets.
Yeah, vector graphics.
Right.
Yeah, I get it. But other than that was it, right?
Yeah, that's the only thing.
I mean, we are nitpicking the fine stuff.
We are. Would you guys highly recommend this to anybody to watch?
Yes, I would.
Immediately. I think this is a fan film series to follow.
I would too. That's why I want to kind of see if we can get a hold of the director. We'll try to, and see if maybe we can set something up where we can talk
to
about
him.
this.
I'd love to. We should Skype with him.
I'd love to have a discussion with him about this film because it was amazing. It was.
I'm sure he's
amazing.
being inundated right now at requests.
I'm sure he is. But we're the GalaxyCast. We're awesome.
I even love the shot they showed of uncostumed Vader.
Yes, I actually
was a
really
nice
liked
touch.
that. It was a nice touch. Yes. Okay, so those were our thoughts on all 4 of those topics. So we're talking about why Star Trek 4 got canceled, the reorder of Star Wars Resistance, the fact that IG-88 is going to be on Star Wars The Mandalorian, and the Star Wars fan film Vader Episode I, Shards of the Past. We'd love to hear from you. Head over to our webcast, or our webcast, to our website at www.galaxycast.com. Find us on YouTube, find us on Twitter, find us on Facebook. And we will be right back after this break so that we can review the next episode of Star Wars Resistance.
Or, for Gary, the inside of his eyelids.
We're going to get Gary a pillow.
Exactly.
Okay, folks, we'll be right back after the break. And YouTubers, we'll be back in just a bit.
Go